right, we are going to look at one more thing about function with cell membrane. So I'm just going to use my picture. If you watch my structure video, this is the picture I drew for that. So I'm just going to use this to go over the 5 different cell membrane function I can statements. So first is I can describe the function of each of the 4 main components of the cell membrane. So the phospholipids, they're creating this bilayer, and the heads are polar, the tails are nonpolar, and that is going to create a limitation on what can cross. So anything that's nonpolar, these polar heads kind of look the other way and let it go by, and of course the nonpolar tails are like, come on in. But if it's polar, these tails say, I'm not looking the other way, you're not coming in. So nonpolar and small can just zip right across, but anything that's large and polar is not going to be able to. So how's it going to get in or out if it needs to? Protein. So proteins have a bunch of different functions. Sometimes they act as an enzyme. Sometimes they act in cell signaling as receptors. But in this case, they're usually acting as a tunnel through which something like glucose can use to get through and into. Because glucose is too big, it cannot cross the cell membrane, and it's going to have to go through a protein to get there. So proteins in again, lots of different functions, but transport across the membrane is one of those big functions. I don't know why this is, I could blow that up a little bit for you. All right, cholesterol. Cholesterol is down here amongst the tails. It's this 4-ring structure, and it is going to keep the tails from tangling, so it's going to detangle the tails, and it's also going to provide stability among those tails. So by not letting them get all tangled into a big knot, it provides that structure and stability there. And then lastly, our carbohydrate chains. These are primarily for identification. So all of your cells have little flags on them that say your name. So I have little Miss Piro flags all over all my cells. And so when my immune system is working and going around and checking everything, it's checking to make sure all the cells have those flags. And if they don't, it's going to attack it because it's a foreign cell. So that's identification. It also is how cells know where to go during embryonic development. It is how your body knows to do certain things with certain cells, like for 2 cells to attach to each other. It's how they recognize each other. So it really is just for identification. I can describe the overall function of the cell membrane. It is to control what enters and exits the cell. That is the primary function. It's just to be a gatekeeper and prevent just any old nasty thing from coming into the cell and killing the cell. I can explain what it means to say the cell membrane is semipermeable. Semi, as you probably know, means partially or halfway. Permeable means it allows things through. So like a raincoat would be impermeable because it does not let things through. So the fact that your cell membrane is semi-permeable says that it allows some things through while other things get a big fat nope, you're not coming in. So it's going to control, again, going back to that control. I can differentiate between peripheral and integral or transmembrane proteins. This is an integral or transmembrane. Trans means across, so it spans across the whole membrane. Integral tells you that it's integrated into the membrane. Well, let's say that we had another protein down here. I'll kind of extend my membrane. That's not crossing the membrane. This would be a peripheral protein because it's on the periphery of the membrane. Sometimes it's all the way outside. So both of these would be peripheral because they are on the periphery of the membrane. And then I can describe the movement across the cell membrane in regards to size and polarity. I already mentioned that, but as far as size, small generally can get across, large cannot, because you can't, if something big tried to get across, it's just going to punch a hole in that cell membrane. And then your cell is going to lose everything. It's going to all ooze out. With polarity, only nonpolar. So let's see if I have somewhere on here I can write stuff. So small and nonpolar. Yep, you can cross. Something like O2, CO2, those are things that are small and nonpolar. Large or, so this has to be and, small and nonpolar. Anything that is large or polar, so it could be just large, it could be just polar, or it could be both, is not going to be able to go through the cell membrane directly. It's going to have to go through a protein if it's allowed in at all. And glucose would be an example of that because glucose is large. Water, even though water is really small, it's polar. And so a couple water molecules can sneak across, but for the most part, they have to enter through a protein as well. So that is all about the functions of the cell membrane. I hope that helps. And if you